Welcome to another episode of DoubleTake, where we take popular marketing headlines about popular data and technology topics and try to decipher what's hype and what's reality, and potentially how you can achieve those for your organization. My name is Tommy Bliven. I'm head of marketing at Pandera, and I'm joined by
Brian O'Connor. Welcome back, everyone. I'm head of solutions at Pandera Systems. So, Tommy, what's the headline today?
All right. Today's headline is Data Warehouse Modernization, fast, simple, and scalable. And I'm actually looking forward to our guests that we have to talk about this today. Like we always do, we have your point of view, mine, and then we try to bring in an expert. We've worked with him for a while, very good guy. So I'll introduce him a little bit, but really looking forward to having him on. So my point of view on this is, I think there is some truth to this headline, right? From my experience working, for Pandera and learning more about cloud technologies and data warehouse modernization, I do see the tremendous benefits, right? And I think organizations can definitely leverage a cloud data warehouse to break down data silos, to make accessing data a lot easier. I just see it also from marketing teams that we work with, right? They're mainly talking about data silos, not to be able to access that information, but then also taking that data and doing some analysis on it, right? I think from your traditional data warehouses or sources or technologies, maybe that wasn't necessarily achievable before. So I think there are some benefits. I think it is definitely scalable. I think there's the fast part of it. Where I struggle is the simple part, right? And maybe that's just me and my level of knowledge when it comes to that stuff. But when I look at marketing teams in general and maybe business functions within the organization, they're not too keen on those technology components, right? So that's where it's a little fuzzy for me. I don't really think it's simple, and that's just to me, but I do believe it's fast and scalable.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear like a blanket statement of data warehouse modernization, fast, simple, scalable, I really start to think of, okay, if end state, you're finally there. Yeah, sure. Data modernization is fast, simple, and scalable if you're an end user, right? But I'm thinking of it more of adopting a modernized data platform, right? Which a lot of organizations are probably thinking through now. Now, that right there, that's not fast, simple, and scalable at the time. Maybe scalable later down the road, but definitely not fast and simple. When I think of data warehouse modernization, I kind of look at it two schools of thought. It might be for people who are trying to migrate away from their old legacy technologies, which could be a on-premise data warehouse, licensing with Teradata or Oracle, or some of the other big players that are for on-prem. Those type of migrations become pretty complex if you do want to modernize your data warehouse, right? Which would be moving to BigQuery or potentially Redshift, right, in different environments. Now that becomes very complex because all the work of the ETL platform that you have set up, all the stored procedures you have set up, everything that goes along with the bells and whistles of your existing data warehouse, we're not talking about completely migrating over. Mm-hmm. So that's no simple task or fast task, right? But there's incredible business value for moving over there, right?
Right.
So
yeah, and I could definitely see that. And those are all the different pieces that I do not traditionally think about as well. So it's definitely then not simple for me. I mean, so all right. Well, I mean, I guess now let's get to our next part. You want to welcome our guest?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we have Daniel Zagalis, also from Pandera. He's our data service practice lead, who's been working on, for I think 10 years with Pandera, probably more, 15 years actually, working through kind of the life cycle of organization's data strategy, right? So he's seen it all. We're happy to have him on, and welcome, Daniel.
Hi, everybody.
Well, Daniel, so the topic today is data warehouse modernization, fast, simple, and scalable, right? I mean, I guess before we even jump into maybe a few questions we have, like give us like the summary of how you explain or describe a modern data warehouse to maybe business users with an organization or the business functions with an organization.
Yeah, and so when we talk about data warehouse modernization, there's all the tech stuff, right? It's separation of compute and storage. It's fast. It like uses distributed compute to be able to do all this stuff and really speed that up. When you cross that threshold, it means nothing to an end business user, really. And so when we talk to them, what our focus is on is what does it enable? What use cases does it provide to an end user? So things like simple access layers. So whether that be your typical SQL language that everyone's now becoming more familiar with. Before, it was Excel. And that was kind of the brokering language of how do I do data analysis as a business user. And now we're in a realm where uh, that has dropped down significantly, and the use of SQL is really uh, been adopted heavily by the business analytics users in that layer. Next, it's what can I access in the conglomeration of data, right? It's no longer my data has to be in the data warehouse. It's what does my data warehouse enable me to access in my environment, and that becomes a different dynamic. So the tearing down of data silos, right, and making data accessible, whether you're in the marketing team and you need more than just your marketing data that's typically been locked into your MarTech stack, or if you're in finance and you really want to see that outward look of what are all these other teams doing, it's enablement of that. And then the simple enablement of the advanced analytics use cases, machine learning. Now that's been brought down to a level to where anybody can be a quote unquote data scientist, right? With data democratization through things like BQML, for instance, where can write simple query syntax to generate machine learning and test theories at a very low cost, rapid deployment cycle. So those are the things that we typically talk through when we talk about what does a modern data warehouse do for a business user.
What would you consider then a main driver for an organization trying to transform to a modern data platform? Is it advanced analytics? Do they can buy a use case, or is it speed of delivery of their data? Right? What do you typically say?
I was listening to you guys talk before you cut me in. Um, Breaking it up into those two camps is a good way to look at it because it's different for both. When you're coming from a legacy system, I think uh, the cost is a huge driving factor, right? Some of these legacy platforms have huge licensing implications, and when we look at some of the native toolings of cloud, it's much simpler, right? It's simpler to understand. The cost barrier is much lower, so I think that's a big driving factor. Uh, Speed is a given. I think if you're going to a cloud warehouse and you're not getting speed, you either had a really good investment to start with, or you did something wrong along the way, which kind of attests to how simple is it to migrate. And I think migrating can be simple. You mentioned like the conversion of ETL scripts and stored procedures. Tooling to do that has become much simpler and much more automated in fashion to where we can just run that through a scripting process and have those things be updated automatically. But when we talk about cloud native solutions, right, people who are already native on the cloud, and how it enables them and what those use cases are for them, I think it has to be the data siloing, right? They lived in a world where maybe, like I said, it's just the marketing data, and they had their own little piece of the pie in cloud, and now everybody's catching up to them. So that enablement of the removing of silos and how simple it is for them to get data ingested, which typically has been kind of burdensome, right? How do I ingest data into my data warehouse? Tools for that have become much simpler with things like Fivetran, data transfer services that are embedded into the warehouses. So I think the simple for people who are already cloud native, maybe not cloud experts, right? They are familiar with using those tools in the space, but maybe don't know how to architect a cloud solution. They're just receiving on that end.
I actually think there's maybe something hidden in that headline too. As far as for fast and scalable, I'm going to totally forget about the simple part, but the fast and scalable, because the way you describe some of the capabilities of an organization once they have like a cloud data warehouse in place, like BigQuery, for example. You mentioned BigQuery ML, right? I mean, that just, I think about fast as far as for your ability then to leverage machine learning models that are already native to BigQuery and the Google Cloud Platform, right? And then also scalable as far as for you can then scale your skill sets just because of all the native capabilities a platform like that provides, right? So, I mean, am I wrong with thinking like there's a hidden meaning in that fast and scalable?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. I didn't even think about that, but the scaling up of not just the infrastructure that goes behind it, but you as an individual and a contributor to your organization. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm not sure if you guys have ever played around with some of those tools like BQML, but super simple, right? For me to test out a hypothesis and build a model using some of the AutoML features that you can tie to, it's nuts. Like it is absolutely crazy how me as somebody who's not a data scientist can go in and create a functioning model. Just again, even to prove the point, I can do that in less than a few hours, right? To build that and show value, and if there is value, great, right? And we can enhance it. We can either keep driving in BigQuery or spin it off to something like Vertex, and have like a true data scientist work at it. But it enables me as an analyst or a consumer of data to prove that value and make the business case. And maybe I spent $10 doing it, right? There's not the cost and speed and scalability of my skills is immense.
So I'm going to give you a kind of a situation. Imagine envision me as a organization, right? We have a data warehouse on premise. It's Oracle Data Warehouse. We leverage Oracle Data Integrator as like our ETL solution per se, and we have 50 data sources or kind of raw data sets that are coming in through our vendors and partners that we have that are either delivering data to us or we're receiving data. Now, we have a lot of these custom process where we have teams that do data entry and we have teams that take files from our vendors and restructure them and pass them into a format that's available for ODI. Right? When I see a headline like data modernization, when I think about that, I start doing my research and I go, is this something my organization should go down this path, right? Because it's got all these bells and whistles, it's fast, it's simple, it's scalable, right? That's exactly what I want. But then I look at the burden of work to convert all the processes that we've built over the past 20 plus years into what will now be into like the cloud and BigQuery. What would you say is the best place to start, or how would you talk me off that ledge?
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit, right? We've got tools to migrate those let's say 50 raw source ODI jobs
Mhm.
now to still potentially still using ODI, but now with a new target, right? We can convert those things. There's very simple things that need to get taken into account, connectivity methods, data types, things like that. It seems like a lot, but when you really decompose it, it's something that can be done very quickly within the matter on large scale things a month, where all those things get converted, and then it just becomes an issue of testing and validation, cutover, and so it isn't as daunting when you start chunking it up. And that's really the focus being just lift and shift, right? Get off that platform, right? Because it's hindering you from going forward, right? What cost, opportunity costs are you losing from staying on that platform? Right, there will be that initial hit up front to do that conversion, get everything moved over. You'll have to run in parallel for some time, and then do a cutover. But that process isn't as complex as you think it is. Right, there's great tooling out there to do automate a lot of it, and then just becomes a matter of how do you actually implement. We're pretty good at that, I would say.
Yeah. So I think we're almost up on time, but Brian, what do you think? I mean, as far as for fast, simple, and scalable, like which one of those are true?
There you have it right there. Well, according to Daniel, and I'd have to trust him since he's a veteran in this industry and has seen it all. It is fast. It's fast to go from what would be considered ancient into modern, right?
Hey, the term is legacy. The term is legacy.
I like ancient. So really, it's fast. It seems relatively simple. Not going to point people in the direction that everything's simple and can be done immediately. But I think that headline is at some point some level of truth to it. So
So the marketing person that put that headline together did a good job.
yeah, it did a great
All
job.
right.
Great.
Well, Daniel, we appreciate your time today, as always. All right. Well, Brian, you want to send us out?
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for joining this week, and we'll catch you next time to talk through how to build a data-driven organization.